Hey guys, Big Chonis here. Thanks for joining me tonight. Please support the channel by hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing. You guys can also find me on Twitter. Also, if you're interested in doing some leverage trading, recommend BingBon.com. BingBon.com. That's where I do all my leverage trading. We can check out here. We are looking at Bitcoin. This is the 1 hour chart. We can see we've been very coiled here ever since we had our weekend pump up to 19,400s and was able to retest this area um, of liquidity that was the last kind of bang, bang, and the lower low where we actually broke through to that bearish rehead here. We had a very nice spike with a roll, Adam and Eve bottom, if you will, and that has produced this pump here. But again, we are still holding this overall resistance. But Bitcoin's over $19,000. I mean, listen, Bitcoin's over $19,000. Equity markets closed mixed-ish. We had a nice rally on the open, a gap up, and you can see they kind of faded through the day. Not that good looking on the daily there, but still overall holding this area. Um, while Bitcoin was bullish over the weekend, the bullishness came through on the equity markets, but faded at the end of the day here. We can zoom out here to our daily chart, and we still have an hour or so left in the day. And the first thing that comes to note is that we've been able to regain our middle Bollinger support. We can see that was area here. It was an area of resistance. We hit it on the way down a couple times, could not get back above. And not only have we broken above, closed below, back tested it, and accelerated off of the middle BB, which is the MA20 as well on the daily or the 20 period. We can then once again put our upper Bollinger tag in play, and that would put us back to 20K. But we are still holding our overall lower high still, even with this move here, and the upper Bollinger still is the overall resistance from this. We've now gone sideways, as you can see here, in our distribution, where we were basically just straight up. And this is good in terms of time, because what we've been able to do is allow our moving averages, our exponential moving averages. I'm going to start with our EMA 1226. I talk about these on notable occasions here. I tweet about this. This is the EMA 26. We have the touch here and the nice bounce. We did it again. We did it again. We had the intraday several breaks of the EMA 26. These were actually more fierce because we hit it 3 times. We only broke twice here. But we again never closed below the EMA 26, our yellow line here, and that was what was able us to propel up higher. And what I like to do sometimes is take the price action away, right? Kind of just hide it and just look at the EMAs themselves, and you can see that the bull cross here is still the dominant player. We watched the spread of how far apart they get. Okay, they got a little too hot here, came back. A little too hot here, came back. And now we're both angled up again. This is still bullish because we've yet to cross. And we can see these extremes. We go all the way back here to the extremes of the highs of 2019 and then the extremes of highs of 2017. In 2017, you can see how significantly higher the blue was able to get above here, the spread. And this is when Bitcoin was up here. The price action was up here at 20K. But the pulling of these two EMAs, this was the height of the separation. And it's also notable, as you can see here, this did not break truly bearish. The bear cross wasn't until January 12th. Okay, as you can see, we tested it here, and there was still a reason to be long based on these EMAs up until the point here where we lost the support. And that basically was when we broke bearish 15K and the EMAs crossed bearishly plus the resistance. But before that, we were still running high, and then we had our test there. So back to where we are now, we can tell that we have not even come close to testing a bearish cross. And now that we're back above EMA 12, which is now 18.7, that remains the more dominant area to hold for the overall bullish scenario. Very bullish. That's 3 really good signs, being able to re-achieved that so far. Again, our volume though, talk about our volume in a minute, but our volume's weak. Okay, we still have yet to even test our MA50s. Okay, and the 100 and the 200 still way below. 17,000 is where the 50 resides. Now, a lot of this sideways price action has allowed us to allow these moving averages to catch up with the price, and that's good for a much more longer term, time frame and plan all around here. We want to see these continue to snake up higher, and they basically are doing that just so. I want to talk about some of the oscillators just real quick here. Okay, I always talk about how important the 50 on a daily RSI is, and look at that gorgeous bounce there on the 50. Now that is our first touch of the 50, and we actually expected a touch here because of where this used to be actually a really interesting threshold of the breaking of this ascending triangle we had here on the RSI. There was the break up here. So 50, very important area. There was a nice bounce from it. That's great. We are still putting in these lows. So even though, and also, yeah, we did break that, but I don't really care too much about that. What would really be nice though is if we do get some sort of a back or some sort of a spring higher here, that would be ideal, and that really makes the 70 area the next area you would like to at least get to from an RSI standpoint to touch. Lower lows don't necessarily have to be the worst thing in an RSI as long as we're able to hold above a 50 zone. That still means there's strength there. But if we start flickering down to an area where we're resisting 50 on the daily RSI, I think that's where you start to see a real notable trend change there. The Stochh looks great. We actually have a nice little Adam and Eve here as well. Okay, we were able to come back here, and we put in a higher high on our first indicator. Our second one is still lagging, and I think it's still lagging because our volume really isn't there yet. Okay, this can reject. This is our MACD. We can reject this like that. Okay, we need to wait for confirmation of a bull cross, and the way we want to be able to front run that, there we go, up here is to see the histograms continue to go in the right direction, from a bullish standpoint, which is higher lows. So we're doing the bullish thing on the histogram, and we're still not seeing it too much yet on the MAs. But that is basically setting up for that bullish continuation if we could continue, to get that momentum through. And that's really the key. Remember, this is a lagging indicator there, so we can't, we want to take the positions based on the early signs of what we're doing there, but we wouldn't get the confirmation, obviously, until much later on. It's still early in the week, obviously, so we don't want to, we really don't have much to talk about on those. I do want to mention interesting. Okay, good. I did want to mention our dominance here, Bitcoin dominance. Perhaps alt dump huge was an overstatement, and perhaps alt explode huge is also an overstatement. But look what's happening here. We've risen up on our dominance here, and we rejected the area where I feel alts would bleed to Bitcoin. And we're still in the remix where we see relative strength on some alts across the way here and there. But overall, not too strong. That's kind of why we're seeing the Bitcoin dominance rising and holding strong around 19K, while alts have had a good, let's say they had a good weekend for sure. We'll take a look at some. Why not, right? Let's look at Ethereum here. Let's take a look here at the daily. Just clean it up here. Very similar to Bitcoin, still way above our MAs. Now let's look at this in relation to, it's the same thing as Bitcoin. We were able to regain. This was different though. We actually did put a closing candle below our EMA 26. So that's actually a little bit weaker than Bitcoin showed in that overall schematic there. Um, RSI, we actually also did briefly break the 50, and that's notable as well. So ETH a little weaker, but very similar oscillators overall. Excuse me, to Bitcoin there. I wanted to talk about. I can bring up Litecoin here. And again, we're just thinking about this about if we're seeing the loss of the Bitcoin, if we're seeing the rise of the Bitcoin dominance, we're still seeing those altcoins show a little more weakness on the downside and relative strength just slightly less than we had been expecting this whole run up, at least so far. But again, it regained our EMA support. It's a very similar look to it. XRP, very different, and this is interesting here because we can see, unlike those, now we have to obviously make note of this move was parabolic, and because of that, we were able to get such a quick percentage move, right? In just a very short amount of time. Then we would obviously expect our EMAs here to express a huge move here, but we are under for the third day now our EMA 26. That's not good, but we have yet to cross bearishly, right? So what the bulls really want is to see this hold and deflect, all right? And then these start to go up, which would mean the price action would also start to go up there. So we're very close to an inflection point here where we want to see the overall EMAs hold the bullish spread on Ripple. And again, this had that larger move quicker. So it's okay to kind of allow this to play out, but we don't want to see those cross, and they are closer, obviously, than they've been this whole consolidation, overall so far. So listen, Bitcoin still looking pretty strong here after a very interesting Monday. If we can forecast kind of, what the possibilities where we might be going, if we do keep this rise higher. I mean, it's funny. There's like, in terms of like Fibonacci's or EMAs or MAs, like we know where we still are. Like we've broken above all the resistances for years, right? The years of 2019 of 2019, and then of course of 2017, and we're right there again still. So we haven't had the wick, we haven't had the rejection, we haven't had the volume that you would think you would have in a topping and or bottoming area. Topping, bottoming, and we've just been kind of, big moves here. This was buy action. This was buy action. This was a sell that got absorbed so quickly, trickle, and then there was the last ramp there. So we've had these three kind of run-ups here. There's a very good possibility that Bitcoin could range sideways for quite a while, at least through the end of the year. There's an inflection point here where the holders have had enough time to sell at these levels, as well have had shakeouts that would push out a lot of those higher leverage trades on the dip to 16s, and then on the most recent dip to 17.7. But we're still putting in some sort of pattern here, whether it's a continuation of some sort of ascending triangle or some sort of a longer rising fifth wave diagonal. And again, all those ending targets push us over 20K. I don't know how much farther over 20K. And if we do get over 20K on spot, that's the key spot. If we get over 20K on spot, that's really where you've made it, that there are buys coming in over 20K OTC. And that really just says that there's money that's willing to buy Bitcoin and hodl it over $20,000. That's a big moment there. And I think we're like less than 5% away from that on the daily chart. So we're heading into tomorrow's price action here, where until we obviously break our current highs there, we're still putting in the lower high. Oscillators have cooled off. It's a cooler market now than it was because of the sideways price action we've been able to achieve. But yet still, we haven't had the major sell-off, and there could be a point here where sellers are not letting go and enough buyers are comfortable in these areas. I still feel there's another chance for a major correction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't go higher first before we actually endure that. There will be tax selling. Like, there will be the need for people who've had an excellent year and want to take some money off the table because they kind of have a really big tax liability to do so. That could put downward pressure. Mount Gox, I'm pretty sure the disbursement is happening soon, like this week or next week, and that could be an interesting play on the market as well. And we'll see, how strong a lot of the billionaires are able to soak up the Bitcoin supply as well as it keeps, coming on the market or so. So, got about an hour left in the price action of Bitcoin. Not a bad day so far. Still over, all of our EMAs and MAs. The key thing here is we've regained middle BB support, and we'll definitely check that out. Also, guys, I did a couple videos this week as well on mushroom stocks. Please say I had a chance to check them out. It really says everything that's happened. The one I did last week, just if you look back to all those stocks there, see where they're at now. It's just been a really great week of 2 weeks, really, of just, months. I've been in these for months, but the past week or so has been just really quite dynamic. And I did a follow-up one last weekend, just talking about them and my thoughts for this week's price action, which so far so good. So anyways, thanks for joining me tonight. Please hit that thumbs up button if you enjoy my contact on here. This is Big Chonis. Talk to you soon. Stay safe. Peace.